In the late 1970s, my dad was 18 years old and working the night shift at a small gas station somewhere in the rural southeast. The station was open 24 hours, and his shift ran overnight, just him alone in the store from around 11 p.m. until morning. It was the kind of lonely highway stop that stayed busy mostly because truckers depended on it. For a long stretch of road, it was the only place open all night, and the station had a large gravel lot where drivers could park their rigs, sleep for a while, or grab something to eat. One night a man came in who immediately set my dad on edge. It was the middle of summer, warm, humid, but the guy was wearing a tight jacket and pants. The way the jacket hung made it obvious something bulky was tucked underneath, near his waistband. The man wandered around the store pretending to look at the shelves, but every few seconds he would glance toward my dad behind the counter. Later it came out that he was on drugs. At the time, though, my dad just knew something felt wrong. Luckily, there was a truck driver inside the station who came through often enough that my dad recognized him. Not a friend exactly, but someone familiar enough to chat with. Quietly, my dad asked him if he would mind hanging around the store until the guy left. The trucker stayed. For several long minutes, the strange man drifted through the aisles, pretending to browse, sneaking looks toward the counter. Eventually, he seemed to get frustrated. Without buying anything, he walked out, climbed into a blue car, and sped off down the highway. The trucker stuck around a little while longer just in case. After another couple of customers came in to sit at the small sandwich booths inside, the place felt normal again, and the trucker headed back to his rig. This was the middle of nowhere in the 1970s. No cell phones, no security systems, just a landline behind the counter and maybe the crackle of a CB radio from truckers out in the lot. My dad didn't even have a weapon in the store. The night slowly settled back into routine. A few hours later, though, a car came screaming into the parking lot. A man jumped out and sprinted inside, breathless, shouting that he needed to use the phone. He had just driven from the next gas station down the highway, about 40 miles back, the closest one to my dad's. When he walked into that station, he said the attendant was lying behind the counter. Shot, dead, the place was empty. The only other thing he saw was a blue car tearing out of the lot just as he arrived. The man had no CB radio and hadn't seen a phone at the other station. He wasn't familiar with the area either, so he drove until he found my dad's place and rushed inside to call 911. Eventually, police tracked down the driver of the blue car. When they brought the suspect in, my dad immediately recognized him as the same sketchy guy who had been lurking around the station earlier that night. The man was arrested and charged with armed robbery and murder. Turns out he was already in the system, either on probation or already wanted for other things. Not someone who had suddenly snapped, but someone who had been trouble long before that night. My dad has always believed if that long-haul trucker hadn't stayed inside the station for those extra minutes, things might have gone very differently. So to the unknown truck driver who decided to hang around a little longer that night, thanks, because without you, I might not be here. Me and my friend, 19 and 17, both females, were biking home around 3 a.m. on a dimly lit street right next to my house. On one side was dense forest, completely black past the tree line. On the other side, a row of quiet houses with no lights on. Up ahead, we saw a red car parked on the side of the road. One of its headlights was out. As we got closer, the car suddenly started moving. It rolled past us way too slowly. Then it went a little further down, made a U-turn, and passed us again. At that point, we were already uneasy. It was obvious we were two girls alone, and the way they were circling didn't feel normal. So we moved onto the sidewalk to put some distance between us and the car. That's when we noticed her. A girl standing partially hidden behind a white truck, watching the same red car. The car began creeping toward her, and then she ran. She sprinted up the sidewalk and turned into a bike path that cut straight through the forest. Immediately, two men got out of the red car and followed her in. Without really thinking, we followed too. We thought she needed help. Looking back, that was a terrible idea. I've lived next to those woods my whole life. That path gets pitch black at night. No one goes in there without a flashlight, especially not at 3 in the morning, but everything about this felt wrong. When we reached the entrance, the red car was just sitting there. The driver, a guy wearing a white bucket hat, was staring directly at us. The second we made eye contact, he sped off down the road. We hesitated for a second, then went into the path. There was a fence running along one side and dense forest on the other. No light, just darkness. That's when I heard it. Footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate, just inside the tree line. They were matching our pace perfectly. Too heavy to be an animal. We didn't say anything, just kept walking. Then my friend spotted the girl ahead of us. She turned on her phone flashlight and called out, "Hey, are you okay?" The girl stopped. She slowly looked over her shoulder at us and just stared. I can't really explain her expression. It wasn't relief, it wasn't fear, it was just blank. Wrong. Then she turned and ran deeper into the woods. That's when it hit us. Something wasn't right. We turned and ran. Full sprint, screaming, not even looking back. We didn't stop until we were back on the street. We called the police immediately. Within minutes, 3 cruisers showed up. They questioned us, then one officer drove down the path. About 5 minutes later, they returned and showed us a photo of the girl. The cops said they found her with one man, which made no sense, because less than 10 minutes earlier, we had seen her completely alone and running away. They also said neither of them would identify themselves or explain why they were there. They brushed us off, saying we could go home now. As we walked away, we saw 3 people get into a police car. Which made it even weirder, because earlier they said there was only one guy with her. So was there really someone following us in the woods? I keep thinking, what if this was trafficking bait? Maybe the only reason they didn't go after us was because we started screaming. My name's Melissa. I'm 22, and I've been driving long haul for a few months now. I won't say the company name for obvious reasons. What I will say is this: if you spend enough nights alone on the road, eventually, the road shows you something back. For me, it happened out in Nevada, on a stretch of highway literally called the loneliest road in America. And yeah, that name is not an exaggeration. It was close to midnight, middle of nowhere. No headlights, no buildings, no radio signal, just miles of empty desert and that constant hum of tires on asphalt. I still had about an hour to the nearest truck stop, and I was fighting to stay awake. I had the AC blasting straight into my face, windows cracked, music up, anything to keep my eyes open. If you've never driven overnight like that, you don't understand how heavy the silence gets, how it starts pressing in on you. And then, something ran out in front of my truck. It happened fast. Too fast. 1 second the road was empty, the next, this white shape just bolts across my headlights and disappears into the brush on the other side. I barely caught it. Looked like a dogger, but big. Really big and fast, faster than anything I've ever seen. But hey, animals cross the road all the time, right? That's what I told myself. I just kept driving. Then less than a minute later, my truck jerks. Hard. It yanks left into the other lane like something just slammed into it. Now, if you've never driven an 80,000-pound rig, let me tell you, when something like that happens, you don't get a second chance. One wrong move and you're jackknifed across the highway, or worse. I fought the wheel, eased the brakes, tried not to overcorrect. Somehow, I don't even know how, I got it back under control. My heart's pounding at this point. So I slow down and start looking for a place to pull off, because something just hit me, and it hit me hard. I find a spot, ease off the road, park, hazards on, and for a second, I just sit there. Because out there's no one coming to help you. Finally, I grab my flashlight, hop down and walk around to the side of the trailer. And I just stop. There's a dent, 5 feet wide. 5 feet tall, just crushed inward like something massive slammed into it. No shape, no pattern, just force. And I'm standing there like, what the hell even does that? We're in flat desert. No cliffs, no rocks, nothing that should have hit me like that. And then I hear it, footsteps behind me, slow, heavy, crunching in the dirt. I turn around, and I wish I hadn't. Because standing maybe 50 feet away from me is that thing, white, huge, wrong. At first my brain tries to say dog, but it's not a dog, not even close. It's standing upright on 2 thick, short legs. Its arms are long, way too long, hanging down past its knees. Its shoulders are broad, rising and falling like it just sprinted across the desert. Its head, it's shaped like a wolf, but stretched, twisted. The snout is too long, filled with teeth that look too sharp. There's saliva dripping from its mouth, just hanging there in strings. And its eyes pitch black, not reflecting light, just empty, and locked directly on me. I couldn't move. I'm standing there in the middle of nowhere, and this thing is between me and my truck. Between me and getting out alive, we just stare at each other. Seconds go by, maybe longer, I don't even know. And for some reason, probably because my brain just snapped trying to process what I was looking at, I say the dumbest thing I've ever said in my life. "You are one ugly motherfucker." The thing snarls, like it vibrates through your chest, and I'm thinking this is it. This is where I die. But then it just stops, drops down onto all fours, and slowly turns away. It walks back toward the brush like it doesn't have a care in the world, like I was never even a threat, like it already knew. Within seconds, it's gone. Just swallowed by the dark, and I stand there, frozen, waiting for it to come charging back out at me. It never does, but I wasn't about to stick around and find out. I bolted. Ran around the front of my truck, climbed in, locked the doors, and got the hell out of there as fast as an 18-wheeler can move, which is not fast enough when your brain is screaming at you. For the next half hour, I kept checking my mirrors, convinced I'd see it running behind me, keeping up, getting closer. Finally, I hit the truck stop. I've never been so relieved to see other humans in my life. I shut down for the night, but sleep, not a chance. Every sound, every footstep, every engine outside, I imagined it was back, waiting. Watching, but it never showed up again, at least not for me. I don't tell this story much because I'm not even sure what I believe about it myself. This was years ago, back when I was still driving trucks. Most of my routes were long, 3 hours one way, sometimes more, so I was used to getting home well after dark. But this one night I got lucky. It was a short run, about 45 minutes out to a rural drop. I remember being in a good mood the whole drive. I figured I would be home around 7, maybe even catch dinner while it was still warm. The road out there was pretty empty. No streetlights, just long stretches of blacktop cutting through fields and patches of woods. I hadn't seen another car in a while, so I'll admit I pushed it a little, maybe 10, 12 over the limit. Nothing crazy, just enough to shave a few minutes off. Then out of nowhere, there was a car right in front of me. No headlights coming up, no turn signal, nothing. Just there, close enough that I didn't even have time to think. If I slammed the brakes, I would plow right into it, so I jerked the wheel instead. Next thing I remember, I'm off the road. The truck hit hard, not a roll, but bad enough that I knew it was done. Everything went quiet after the impact. No engine, no radio, just that ringing in your ears. I sat there for a second trying to get my bearings, then climbed out. First thing I did was look for the other car. There was nothing there. No headlights down the road, no taillights disappearing, no wreck, nothing in the ditch. Just the empty road and my truck half off it. That's when I noticed the people. 4 of them standing a little ways ahead, right about where the car should have been. I couldn't make out details, just shapes at first, but they were definitely people. I called out, asked if they were okay, if they had seen the car. No answer. I remember thinking maybe they had come from somewhere nearby. Maybe they even saw the crash and walked over. But there weren't any houses close enough for that to make sense. I took a few steps toward them, and then they were gone, not like they turned and walked off. Just gone. 1 second they were there, the next there was nothing but empty road again. That's when the adrenaline really hit me. I told myself I was shaken up, maybe hit my head in the crash, but I didn't want to stand out there and figure it out. There was a more populated stretch of road about 5 minutes back the way I came, so I started heading that way on foot. At first, it was just the sound, footsteps. Not mine, out of sync, somewhere behind me. I turned around, nobody there. I kept walking, faster this time. The sound came again, only closer. When I looked back the second time, I saw one of them. Just one, standing in the road behind me. I didn't wait. I started moving quicker, almost a jog. A minute later, I looked again, and there were 2. I can't explain how I knew, but I was sure they hadn't come from anywhere. They were just appearing. By the time I broke into a full run, I could hear multiple sets of footsteps. I looked back one last time and saw all 4 of them, spread out behind me, keeping pace. I didn't stick around to see what they wanted. I ran until I hit the edge of town. Lights, houses, anything that looked normal. I must have looked like hell because the first car that came by slowed down without me even sticking my thumb out. Guy asked if I was all right, and I just said I had been in an accident and needed a ride. I didn't mention the rest. Even now, I go back and forth on it. Maybe I hit my head harder than I thought.